Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we're going to be talking about red pill. Is dating hopeless post-breakup? Interesting topic. We'll be talking about some other things today too. Is dating hopeless? Do you just want to give up on women overall after you break up and you're in your 40s? This is a story that came in earlier today. And also we'll talk about maybe changing environments as a reason to combat the idea that you're giving up on women. You're giving up on dating and it's hopeless. What's up, Justin Brown? So I've been off the mic for a little while, but I'm going to be on all this week. So it's going to be interesting this week. But just to start off, red pill is one of those things. There's a lot of videos. There's a lot of people that associate with it. I'm not someone that's well versed in the red pill guidelines or fan club or group where someone might say, oh, this is red pill or this isn't. So what I will say is that I do have clients that reference it. Because what happens now is people will come to me for live coaching, and there's so many voices, spectators, critics, gurus, YouTube people. I'm on YouTube myself, coaches. And you get into a mode where you break up or you have a relationship issue, and you go on YouTube, and it's actually paradox of choice. Paradox of choice means have you gone on Netflix and there's too many options to actually make a choice? And it conflicts your decision making. And so, some of the things associated with being red pill, okay, and whatnot, they're not. It's not all bad. But what happens is a lot of the information on YouTube, on the internet, is generalized for all women do this, all men do that. Well, women do this. There's never this idea that there might be different people in different environments. This gets really overlooked. Hold on a sec here. And it kind of annoys me. Red pill doesn't annoy me at all, because this is what happens. And Rollo Tomassi said this a while ago, the one that wrote The Rational Male and is kind of a big part of this red pill thing, that he's built a brand. Rollo Tomassi's not actually his name, and he's built this brand and this idea, and they have this idea that they've created labels for different things, like a Giga Chad is one of them, calling someone this, calling someone that. They have their own lingo, and it's fine. People like to be a part of something with a label. I'm a 49ers fan. I'm a Warriors fan for basketball. I'm a Giants fan for baseball. I like to be associated with those teams because that's the city I'm from. And since I was a little kid, I went there. And what's happening is, people will start to associate. Red pill's a philosophy, and philosophies aren't factual, and there's intricacies to them. So what happens, though, is you have someone that goes on there and they go, yeah, I was watching this video, and, I broke up, and the video told me to do this, this, and this. And I thought to myself, well, I don't want to do this, this, and this, but I would do this, but my situation's a little bit different. And that's where it all changes. And that's where you need to talk to a coach like myself, because your relationship is different. You can't tell the person in the video, well, actually in my relationship it's a little bit different because this, this, and this. You're getting generalized information. Your breakup is not generalized. It's tailored. There was a lot of ups and downs, highs and lows, little pieces that made that breakup happen, that made that relationship what it is, and you got to get that out. Someone making a 5 or 10 minute video on saying that, dating women in America is worthless, for example, or all women are materialistic, for example, the first question I'd ask is, where is that individual going to meet women? Where do they live in the world? This counts. It really counts. I would have some questions for them, because what happens is I'm going somewhere with this today because I have a story that I'm going to unpack in a minute. And the way the guy starts is, I just want to give up on women. Right? Generalized statement. Next sentence. I've been watching a lot of red pill videos of women these days. It just seems so hopeless. I'm a good man. I deserve a good woman. So my point is, you've come to the conclusion that dating seems hopeless and you should give up on women. That's a big statement. There's billions of women in the world. They're all bad. All dating apps suck. The game's rigged. It's all against you. That's a problem-based, not solution-based. Now, is there some crappy women in the world? Sure, there's some crappy men in the world. Is there some people that are materialists? Absolutely. I'm with you. But what's happening is what you don't realize is, a lot of times you're watching a video of a guy that's projecting what happened to him. Okay? So a lot of these... have you noticed a lot? Maybe I'm wrong on this. Rob, you might know better, because I think you follow the red pill community more than I do. But like Rich Cooper, who else? Aaron Clary's in there now. There's some other people in there. A lot of these guys, they got nailed in a bad divorce. They got treated bad. They had some bad dating situations. And so they basically are saying, well, this is what happened to me, so it's true for everyone. And it doesn't apply to everyone. It doesn't apply to everyone. It applies to some people. And if you have to get to a point where you're receiving information from people that you think you line up with. But when you're in a breakup specifically, the events that led up to the breakup need to be dissected, unpacked, and looked at. Because if you go into one of these things where you're like, oh, yep, they're all this, all women are this, all women are that, all women do this, women do this. There's these generalized rules for dealing with women all the time. And where I would start is, where do you meet women? Where do you interact with them? Why would you ask that? If you're going to say that dating's hopeless and you want to give up on women, where are you meeting women? Where do you live in the world? What city do you live in? Where do you interact? That would be a good place to start. Rather than, I watched some videos and they've told me this and they've showed me examples of this. All right, I'm going to get into the story now. Justin Brown, Jesse Chapman, Clutch, Mr. Rob I.S., good to see you. Go ahead and throw it on the notes if you guys have some questions, some comments. Is dating hopeless post-breakup? Hell no. Is it okay to lick your wounds a little bit post-breakup? Hell yeah. I would say that it's underrated, or it's not appreciated, that a guy is allowed to hurt for a little while post-breakup. I know when I had my bad breakup in my late 20s, it took me a while. It fucking hurt. I didn't want to admit that at the time. You kind of want to put your game face on. You kind of want to be cool about it. You want to stop talking about it. But actually, you're fucking hurt, man. Even if you know the breakup was right, even if you don't want to get back with that individual, sometimes you need to stay off your heart for a little while. Sometimes you need some time to just be alone, or to be single, or not see someone. Someone's like, I'm not ready to see someone. Okay, no problem. Don't force yourself into it. Yeah, no one's rushing you into it. And some, your friends and family, sometimes they just want you to feel better. They just want you to hook up with someone new. They want to introduce you to a friend, right? They just want you to feel better. And you can say, I remember what that time during my breakup, I couldn't even feel attracted to another woman for a month or 2 months. And I never had that feeling in my life, because the funny thing is when you're with your girlfriend, or some cases your wife, or you want to say your partner, or what have you, right? Maybe people don't like this idea, but you're always checking the menu, right? You're always checking other women out. It doesn't mean you're going to do something. It doesn't mean you're going to place an order. It doesn't mean you're going to ask for the number, but you're like, oh, she's hot, she's cute, right? But then post-breakup, I remember thinking like, wow, my ex was so great. Oh, God, That's normal in a lot of cases. It's not uncommon. It's going to take some time. It's really going to take some time if you do it right. Really is. FP, why do so many men get rebounds right away rather than work on healing emotionally? Well, it's funny you say that, FP, because I've had plenty of men complain in the opposite direction. And this is where the generalizations come in. Oh, all women are able to rebound quicker than men. So it's not, I wouldn't say that is true of either. What I would say is that certain individuals are going to find it easier to rebound based on who they are as a person, how they deal with shit. So, for example, I remember having a friend that said he broke up after 7 years, and he went to Vegas the next weekend and just went nuts. I can't do that. I'm not built that way. I wouldn't be able to go and have a good time and just let the liquor glaze things over. But getting rebounds right away, it depends on if the person works with a lot of individuals of the opposite sex, or they are in a place where they're interacting with people already, and the environments they're in. I'm going to come back to environment over and over again. It might be annoying for someone like Rob that comes on, but it's really overlooked. You have environment of your city or town. You have environment of your workplace, and you have environments of your neighborhood. So those are three big ones, right? And those will affect your options post-breakup, okay? And so that's one of those things. Rebounds aren't really planned, I think. But there are people that can't handle being single. In other words, and I'll add to that, FP, depending on the person's age, I have a relative that basically has never been single longer than, a week. And I'm not exaggerating. And she's in her 50s. And someone might go, oh, she just rebounds. She just doesn't filter very much. It's just like, take a pulse. The guy likes me. And we can start something. Some people are like that. Right? They can't handle being alone. And so the rebound, a lot of times sometimes people will think a rebound's bad. Sometimes a rebound ends up being a long relationship. And like I said, the people that come out of a breakup and date right away aren't always flawed. Some of them are in a really good place, and they're just in a situation where they can hit the ground running and they have a lot of options. Every breakup's a little bit different. All right, let me get into the story, and then I'll get back to the live stream. So, Coach, I just want to give up on women. I've been watching a lot of red pill videos, and women these days just seem so hopeless. I'm a good man. I deserve a good woman. I broke up with my ex over 2 years ago, and ever since I've been dating online. And at 40 plus years old, it's no cakewalk. Finding dates isn't hard, but goddamn, these women are entitled and controlling. So I don't know where he's at in the world. I'm assuming this is somewhere in America. I live in a suburban area outside of Seattle. And I just can't believe what women have come to here. So I mean, it's seriously thinking of. I'm seriously thinking of moving to Mexico. A friend lives there, and says he'll never move back to Seattle. Here's my issue. My ex from 2 years ago has popped up back into the picture. She called me out of the blue and we got lunch. Popped up back in the picture, huh? She mentioned that she had some short relationships, but nothing serious. We walked and talked after lunch. It actually was really nice. We now plan to go out again this coming weekend. I'm excited to see what happens. We broke up after 5 years together because she was drinking too much and had started taking pain pills at an alarming rate. Well, that sounds like an addiction. She claimed to have a problem. She claimed to not have a problem, but I decided to end things when I found out she was going to a drugstore parking lot trying to score prescription pills. Yeah, that would end it for me too, bud. That did it for me. She explained that she was clean and her sister, whom is a therapist, got her help. Now I've been getting my ducks in a row to go down to Mexico for an extended period of time to visit my buddy and scout the place out to see if I might want to move there in the near future. My company actually has positions where you can work from home and you don't have to live in the country. So it's a real option. My question is this: should I explore this relationship with my ex at all? I mean, I'm not sure I fully trust her, but the first meetup was great. My buddy says I'm crazy. So this is where, I mean, is your buddy living your life or making your decisions for you? You know, why would what your buddy says about this count that much? He keeps saying just come down to Mexico where he lives for a few weeks. I would definitely tell you, because I live abroad and I've lived in a few different places, and I absolutely support the life experience of moving somewhere new. And I would say that I'm not going to necessarily say that Seattle's hopeless for a 40-plus-year-old guy. But if your friend's in the same age range and he's been down there for a little while and he's doing well with women and dating, I would definitely say you do need to go out there and go out on a little discovery mission for sure. And if it lines up that your job, you know, you can work your job, that's a cherry on top. So this woman popping back up out of nowhere, this ex, you're already conveying that you don't trust her from the get-go. So she's 2 steps back before she even starts. The fact that she was hooked on pain pills and an alcoholic. Pain pills are that's a difficult thing to shake. I've had relatives that are on that, and it is nasty because they can go and claim pain and get it over and over again. I actually have a relative that basically still takes his pain pills, but just has it under control. So fool me once, fool me twice. I mean, getting back into that relationship. Here's the issue: when you get back into a relationship with someone you broke up with and you already don't have trust, you got to realize if you get back together, you're going to have one eye on her, you know, checking her prescriptions and, oh, are you going out for 1 or 2 drinks? I mean, you're starting out in a negative place, if that makes sense. Now, if you have no other options, if you were not having the option to go to Mexico, I would say, well, yeah, entertain it, see what happens, tread lightly, go out another lunch and see what happens. This idea that you just want to give up on women and you're watching too many red pill videos, well, stop watching the red pill videos and realize that it just takes one woman to turn it around. But I would definitely go down to Old Mexico and check it out. That sounds like a sound option. I wouldn't let this deter you. Do you believe it's possible for an ex to change in 2 years, especially with addiction? Yes, it's absolutely possible. But it's an uphill battle on your end to regain the trust. Now, the other part of that is it's going to take you some time. You're going to start a new relationship. You're not going to start from where you were before. But don't detour from going down to Mexico. I would definitely, that might be a better option than this. I was just getting excited about this move or potential move, and now this has me second guessing everything. No, I wouldn't second guess this at all. I would say that you can still go down to Mexico, visit your friend, and explore this as an idea. Maybe you go down there for 2 or 3 weeks and you're like, yep, now I know what he was talking about. And I'd like to applaud you because you're saying, this is where I don't agree. Just to give up on women or to say dating is hopeless, I would say the number one thing you got to do is change your environment probably. If you're living in a suburb outside of Seattle, maybe there's not a lot of women in your wheelhouse or of your liking, then move. Go to a new fishing ground. Okay? Because I think that's what your friend's telling you. Blaming all women is where you're already wrong. And then going back to an ex that was an addict, if you have no other options, fine. But I would say the exploration of Mexico would come first. Don't put that on the shelf. And I would add, if you're going to open up that rabbit hole and you're going to go to Mexico, I'd go to a few other countries if that's on the plate. I really would. I really, really would. All right, so what do we got here? It depends on the mindset of the person. Fearful avoidance tend to be the quickest. Exactly. Mostly depends on the mindset. Some men might also tend to go for low-hanging fruit as a rebound, something they might not otherwise consider. Okay. Where is he looking for these entitled, controlling women? That's a good point, Rob. What happens is someone has a couple of experiences or even just one that's really bad and they blow it up and then they have an excuse to not try again. Parking lot of pills. Yeah, it is a red flag. FP says if I were this person, I definitely would not put my life plans on hold to try to reconcile with an ex in an already negative mindset. Not trusting or wanting to give up on women. Absolutely, FP. I agree. And you know what? Sometimes when someone sends in a short snippet of the story and then they do coaching with me after, there's some variables they don't mention. Sometimes people will go, actually, I kind of had a pill problem too. Or actually this. And I'm like, well, you didn't mention that in your story before. So they might be holding a few things back here. But a lot of times too, your ex is comfortable. All right, I got another story here. I'm going to unpack it really quick. But I just say in closing, definitely go to Mexico. Definitely explore moving somewhere new if that's on the plate for you. Generalizing women in your area could be true. I mean, characteristics of certain areas and certain cities and certain places, you're going to have less options when you're single. This big movement of blaming dating apps is another one too. Withhold info until after. Yeah. When you do a live coaching session, you probably have the same thing, Clutch, because you've talked in coaching before. I don't think you're doing coaching anymore, but it's such a different ball game than when someone sends their story. These stories are good because they're anonymous and they unpack some things, but when you talk, they reveal and unveil a lot of stuff that they held back. One thing, if he's been reading, watching red pill content, and if it's the right content, not the angry red pill crazies, then you should understand male-female behavior better. All right, next one. Hey, coach, I got a real issue to deal with after this breakup. My ex and I were together for 15 years. Well, that's a lifetime achievement award in relationships of the 21st century. We met in a supermarket, fell in love soon after. The first 5 years were great. The next 5 good, with some bad. And the last 5 very up and down. We actually stopped sleeping together 2 years before the breakup. It's amazing how many long-term relationships end without sex. It's just amazing. Nothing was said. It was just impossible to put a move on her without being pushed away. She said it was beginning of menopause. Who knows? She's 45 and I'm 50. We broke up because it wasn't working anymore. But on the lack of intimacy, she seemed to be very negative towards me and completely non-supportive. Well, she's not attracted to you. I'm a golf coach, and before this was a pro golfer. The transition to coaching was tough at first, but now I've grown to love it. Now there's a bit of a curveball. After being broken up for 6 months, my ex called me and told me she missed me when then we had some of the best sex ever. The next day we didn't bring it up, any of the past or the breakup. We just held each other, joked around, had a nice breakfast. It was glorious. It was great. Then she told me this wasn't us getting back together. Put you in her frame. But we could see each other casually. Her words. I agreed. I like this arrangement. And now we've sort of been with each other once a week, and we had good intimacy, and we go on about our week. I'm feeling like we are getting closer. I don't want to live together again, but she is living in the condo we bought together. The plan was to sell the condo in the spring when the market is at its peak, and I agreed she could live there till then. I don't know if that was a good agreement on your part. Now, recently, when we were together, she mentioned wanting to keep the condo and buy me out. Only her buyout is about 70 or 80K below market value. Do not give in on this. There's people that, this is finances. You've been broken up for a while. Giving in 70 or 80K to be nice. You have to ask yourself this. Are you doing this in hopes of getting back together or being in her good, in her good cards, or the fact that you hope this incorporates you guys sleeping together once a week? Because if you didn't sleep together for the last 2 years and then 6 months later you guys hook up here and there, but she wants you to take a haircut on the condo, it's a bit suspect. Saying that and being someone that was in real estate before, people always build a case on price based to their benefit. There's a major cognitive bias towards pricing when it comes to houses and condos. It's amazing, actually. You can, because the thing in the States, you can just pull up comps, right? You're like, here. It's very simple, actually. You get a real estate agent. You don't even need a real estate agent. You go to Zillow and these things now. I'm not talking about this estimate. I'm talking about you can look up the last 5 to 10 homes or condos that have sold in the radius of where you're at, and that's the value of your place. That's what it is. Okay, so it's cut and dry. Do not take a haircut on your end of the condo. And you already kind of, to be frank, if you guys broke up, you shouldn't be waiting until the spring, because she's gonna find a way, most likely, to get cozier in that place and manipulate staying longer, this or that. You guys broke up, you should just sell the place and split it. I was straight up with her about it, and I said I'd like to put it on the market, as some places are receiving multiple offers. She got upset and called me greedy. Well, that's a matter of opinion, right? It's not greedy. This isn't even business. A lot of times your house or your condo, it's one of your only swaths of money, right? I don't know what is this guy's financial situation, but at 50 years old, get your money out of the condo, okay? Because this is what happens, and I've seen it happen many times. When you really break up, or this intimacy stops, or this is the big one, she starts seeing someone else, or she gets remarried, you're going to be pissed that you gave her a deal on buying you out of the condo, right? Because you're going to think, well, I thought I was being cool. The amount of guys I've known that have given their wives the house for the kids, this has come up many times. Well, I still love her, and that's my kid's house. And then the woman gets remarried, or sells the house when the kids are 18, or she moves a boyfriend in but doesn't get married, so she still gets alimony. Take care of all this stuff right now and split it down the middle and just get it out of the way. And don't assume that if you guys had a 15-year go, 2 years of no sex, just split this up, and if it gets ugly, get a lawyer. But I don't know how she operates, but the fact that suddenly she's hitting you up and you guys are hooking up, is this by chance, or is this, I don't know, is this something that you think that she might be doing in order for you to give her a break on the condo? She got upset and called me. I said, we can talk about it another time. My friend said to just get a lawyer. Well, of course, your friend's feelings aren't involved. I would say get a lawyer also. Here's the thing. Her brother is a lawyer. I know if need be, she'll shred me in court. Well, I wouldn't assume that. I mean, if you have the condo on both your names, it might be one of those things that's pretty cut and dry. I would still go and see a lawyer. I wouldn't assume the worst. And she'll have no bill. At the same time, I'm wondering, do we have a chance of getting back together? I would say if you've been together 15 years and the last 2 years were shite, it was just horrible, I would say that I wouldn't bank on it. Usually when people have a long relationship like that and they break up, they usually do not get back together. The odds is a little bit farther apart unless they have kids. Before she called, I had a plan to get the money from the condo sale and move to Florida. I've always wanted to live there and would be good for my golfing career. Plus, I got family there. Well, that lines up really nice. You're not running away from anything. You're starting out fresh. You got family there. I'd say go for it. Don't even look back twice. Her coming back into the picture seemed to put everything on hold. What do you think I should do? Sell the condo, take the money, and move to Florida is what I would say. This idea that, the intimacy's been good 6 months later, but then she's calling you greedy. And the other thing you said, she seemed to be very negative towards me and completely non-supportive. Okay. I mean, to me, if you were in a long-term relationship with someone like that, hasta la vista. Come on, man. But here's the other thing you didn't mention. Like, between the 6 months of breaking up, you got 2 years of no intimacy. You haven't revealed that you cheated. You haven't revealed that. This is some things I'd asked in a coaching session. Have you hooked up with someone since the 6 months? So correct me if I'm wrong. If you did get some intimacy from her, it's been 2 years and 6 months, 2.5 years and some change since you've had intimacy. So it's like water in the desert, right? It's going to taste like the best water you've ever had in your life. Get that money in your pocket. Go down to Florida and bet on yourself, because you had me at, she seemed very negative towards me and completely non-supportive. Good luck. Right? Some days I really do miss her, but I know I can't be 50 in a casual relationship with my ex. I'm old school. I don't like playing the field. I want to be married eventually again. Well, that's interesting, because there's a lot of guys, once they get burned on marriage, or because you didn't mention marriage here, you just said my ex and I were together 15 years. Okay. They don't want to get married again. So there's a lot of women out there, mid 40s, 50s, that's what they want too. And I would say, put yourself back out to the playing field. It sounds like a great reasons to move, right? And do not hesitate. Do not hesitate to get a lawyer and split this pie up, because like I said, it sounds suspect that she's reaching out and then she's asking you at the same time to take a break. And mind you, is she going to do a payment plan with you? Or are you going to get, how are you getting this money? Just realize that whatever you agree to on that, don't do it because you think you're going to get back together or you want to do her right. Think fair, and fair as much as possible. So like I said, split it down the middle, pay the taxes together, and get out of town. And move on, move forward. You're 50 years old. You got another 50 years left. I don't know. I've never been to Florida, but I think it would be a good place for a golf coach. If your family's there, if you got some family there also, what a bonus. Go for it, man. Right? And just realize, one of the reasons it's special is you've been neglected of intimacy for a long time. All right. Let's get into the live stream today. It's been a little while, but I'll be on deck this week much more often for sure. Eduardo Martinez, Vegan Goddess, Is he vegan? I'll eat some vegan food, but I'm not vegan. If I were this person, I definitely would not put my life plans on hold. Maybe she had an ulterior motive to start sleeping with him again in hopes he will change. It's possible. He would know better than I do. I'd ask him a few questions in the coaching. What if she's sleeping with him just to get a good deal for the condo? And this is like one of those things. If you've been with someone 15 years, you should know the answer to that, right? You should know that person inside and out. It's certainly, as a human being, a possibility. She doesn't get the boyfriend discount. She made the choice to end it. You have the choice to sell it full price. It's one of those things that happens a lot, Clutch. A lot of guys go, oh, I just want to be nice. I want to be that. Da, da, da. Chuckster, what up? She belongs to the streets, says Dark Knight. Well, thanks, Chuck. But both these situations, one of the things, and I'm going to talk about this in the future a little bit deeper, is about both these guys are looking about moving, right? As opportunities. One's to another state, one's to another country. And this is going to be big in the future. This is going to be so much more common. That people, I'm noticing it living in Phuket, Thailand, how many people, right? There's way more people living here and working from their computer for extended periods of time than people that used to just come here for 2-3 weeks for vacation. There's a big shift, a big shift. And it's an opportunity for a lot of people. We need to do one last collaboration before I go to Chile until the new year. For sure, bud. You're going to move back to Chile? California sucks, huh? What I would ask you that, Truth of Love, Mr. Clutch. What's your take after being in Cali for a little while? You got a really good job there that you like, I think. What's your comparison of living in, well, Chile was COVID, so I guess it's not fair to do that, but what do you like better? Vegan Goddess. Vegan Goddess, did you, just to the new year. Is that for the girlfriend? I'm a great chef. Vegan Goddess, can I ask you, have you been in a breakup or a relationship issue? Cost of living in Cali's no joke, huh? So I do have something. I'm going to make this for another video, but I think we got 10 on deck today. Maybe I'm going to bring this up. It's going to be for another video in the future, but I'll unpack it with you guys today, guys and gals. Answer these questions yourself right now. If you got a piece of paper and a pen, or if you don't have a piece of paper and a pen, that's fine. If you want to do it on your phone or you just want to answer it out loud or in the chat. Think about this. Why do people go on vacations? Why do people go on vacations? Why would that even be considered? Next question. Why do people spend more money on a home? Why would someone spend more money on one home compared to another home? All right. Where do people want to retire to? So I got 3 questions there. Why do people go on vacations? Thanks, Wendy Dawn. Escape their reality. Could be one. Why do people spend more money on a home? And where do people want to retire to? Now, realize there's no right or wrong answer to this. This is just an opinion. It actually says something about you, Wendy Dawn, to escape their reality. Right? It's like I go on vacation to escape reality. Vegan Goddess says, for 16 years, I'm just wondering, married for 16 years, I'm just wondering if guys would go for someone vegan if she's perfect in all other areas as well. I would love if my girlfriend or wife was vegan. It means she values being healthy. But that being said, there are some dishes that are vegan that don't look very healthy. I mean, that wouldn't be a strike against you, for sure. 16 years. How old are you, Vegan Goddess? So I'll give you guys my answers on these questions. Why do people go on vacations? To me, to visit in an ideal environment. That's my personal answer. To visit an ideal environment for them. An environment that's better than the environment that they're in. Would you go on vacation to a place that's a lesser environment than the one you're in? Maybe to visit family, I suppose. That's interesting answers, Clutch. Escape from reality, perceived self-worth for the home. Somewhere that doesn't trigger them. Wow. So my thing would be for me to go on vacations to visit a more ideal environment. For me, that would be nature, the mountains or the beach. Why do people spend more money on a home? To me, it would be to live in an ideal environment, to live in a better neighborhood. I'm not talking about an investment. Maybe I should have been more clear on that. I'm saying that if you're house hunting or condo hunting, and not everyone does this, by the way. This is something I learned when I was selling real estate in California for a few years. Some people go, I got a 5-bedroom, 3.5 bath, granite countertops, 3-car garage house. Yeah, where's the neighborhood? Oh, I live out in Timbuktu in the middle of, rice fields, 2 hours from San Francisco. Okay. But I got a 5-bedroom house, right? Now, I would say, to me, I was taught you want to go location, location, location. I'd rather live in a studio apartment 4 blocks to the beach than have a 5-bedroom, 4-bath house, but I don't have a family, right? Now, the other one. Where do people want to retire to? That was a really interesting thing where people don't get triggered. I would say many times this is by chance of taking a vacation somewhere and having a positive experience there. It's usually also maybe an ideal environment. The house has a massive garage filled with stuff I don't use, so I park my car in the driveway. Yeah, it's very American to collect our stuff. Get away from the normal life routine or be miserable to make my kids happy if I had any. Oh, you mean for the house? These are interesting answers. I'm actually surprised. Because when you ask questions, this is what's really interesting about good questions. You assume everyone thinks like you. I thought everyone would say to visit an ideal environment. And people are like, to get away. What does that say about the environment you're in that you want to get away? And you know what's interesting about this is living where I live in Phuket, Thailand, 5 minutes from the beach. People will say like, oh, have you been to this place? Oh, have you been to this place? I'm like, nah, I don't travel that much. Oh, why not? And I said, well, I live where people go on vacation. To me, going to another beach, it's probably not going to be better than the beach I'm at. So I moved to the ideal environment. I moved where I would want to go on vacation. It's kind of a motto I've lived by, where I've said, like, I always want to live where people go on vacation. Now someone's like, oh, that's not possible for everyone. Okay. I think it's going to be more possible for a lot of people now that they're working online. I think it's going to change quite a bit. And I'd say that if you are going to buy a home somewhere or a condo, and this is to live in, not just investment, then you want to be in the best location in the best area that suits you, right? And then people usually want to retire in a place that brings them happiness, relaxation, positive experience. I would just buy the house that felt most like home. Okay. The neighborhood would contribute to that, though. Now, here's an interesting questionnaire. If you guys want to answer some questions today. Chuck seems on deck for it. Clutch seems on deck. Retire somewhere you can truly be at rest mentally. So think about it like this. This world's going through a change, right? Post-COVID. A large swath of world population will be working online, and hence they'll be able to work from any location with internet access, which is much of the world. So much of the world has internet now. I'm not going to say I know the percentage, but I would say that a pretty large portion has internet. And there's going to be a pretty large swath of the population that's going to be able to work online. I don't know what those numbers are going to be, but they're going to grow each year. And they're probably, since COVID, doubled or tripled, and that might be a low estimate. So in the past, if you think about this, most people would live where they had work. Now think about that. Most people would live where they had work. So if their job took them to a new city, they would probably follow their job. Or if by chance the city they grew up in had work, then they would stay there. Their proximity to work they wanted to do, or the work that they maybe found by chance. And now people will sacrifice living close to their family for a better job opportunity, or specifically so they can buy a home. So this is one of the things that really changed. I'm going to go somewhere with this. People have put their job and the ability to buy a home in a lot of places over living close to family and friends. And what I've noticed in doing breakup coaching and how that affects your relationships is if you're not tied to your family and friends or your hometown or that group, and by the way, not everyone has a good relationship with their family, so that's one reason why they move. But when they break up, it's a hard fall because they're living in an area that they don't have a lot of family and friends around. And if they don't like their job, it's a really lonely, hard fall. My thing is, if that happens to you, and I have, if that happens to you, I have some clients out there it's lonely for them right now. Then I would say, if you're one of those people that have the ability to work online, this guy mentioned in the story earlier, you have the ability to work online, move and pick a place that you would go on vacation and live there. Pick a place that, like, go explore it. Now, it's not an option for everyone, but here's the crazy thing. I got a former student here that I used to teach at the university here, and lives in Thailand. He's a Thai national, and he just got a job with a Canadian company for video game support. Now, this isn't like some all-world, the best job in the world, but it's solid for him right now. And he gets paid in Canadian dollars in Thailand, and is video game support 40 hours a week. Was that possible? Was that even on the playing field 3, 4, 5 years ago? I don't know. It's everywhere now, though. So I would say that if you're really unhappy, or you're not in a good place and you're lonely, because lonely's different. I would say this is one of the biggest things I notice I don't talk about a lot, is it's not just that you broke up, but you're lonely. You don't have a lot of you might have some friends, you might have a job, but you don't have those strong relationships. And so when you broke up with your partner, it's tough. It's tough. In your environment, the area that you live in is going to affect that loneliness. And I'll tell you why. Because if you're in an area, let's just say like, I don't know, northern Canada. I mean, that's a broad place, right? Because there's a lot of northern Canada. Where it snows a lot and it's cold half the year. You can't leave your house and you live alone in a small condo. It's going to be lonely, man. It's going to be lonely. Now, there's people out there that think like, well, there's nothing I can do. I would look at moving. I would look at being able to work online. I would plan your retirement. You don't have to stay in environments that you're looking to escape. Think about that for a minute. Think about it. Some of you answered, why do people go on vacation? In order to escape. Think about the concept. Why don't you want to live where you go on vacation? Oh, it's impossible. I couldn't live there. Really? You'd have to sacrifice some things. But one of the biggest things that's going to change is the ability to work online. Have an online business, So you can absolutely do it now. Where before it would be like, well, my job's in LA. I'm not going to be able to live in Bali because they don't have my work there. But there's a lot of people right now working online. This is huge. And what's to say if you don't work online that you can't get a job like that? I left Ottawa and moved to Cali. It's totally possible. I don't have the best education, but my drive, that's the main thing. But I mean, would you say that, let me just ask you this as a direct question, Clutch. Would you say that, and I don't know Ottawa very well. I've met people that are from there. I've heard some good things. I heard that there's a lot of government work there, right? Would you say that living in Cali has provided you a happier lifestyle than living in Ottawa? And that's not a leading question. That's honesty, because there's got to be a trade-off. There's probably some good friends you had in Ottawa and things like that. It's like one of my biggest trade-offs of living in paradise where I live is I'm not close to some of my family members, right? It's a trade-off. But this is one of those things that, like I said, if you're like, oh, I just go on vacations to escape reality. Is it a bad place where you live? There's some people I visit back home when I've come to visit. I'm like, damn, this is a bad neighborhood, man, or this is a bad place to live, and they're dug in. All right. So you say I wouldn't say I was happier. Would you say it's a more beautiful place to live? San Diego. I lived in San Diego for 4 years. It's beautiful. Now, here's a good question to ask yourself. What are, and I'd like you to answer this, Windy Dawn, what are the top 3 places you lived in? I wouldn't say, now, remember, you got your neighborhood that you live in, right? Because this is a big one. I don't think people ever think about this big, but I've lived probably in 7 or 8 different dwellings, houses or condos or apartments, maybe more than that. Living Dead Girl. Wow, what a name. Is age difference matter in dating? Absolutely. It matters in long-term relationships for sure. It depends on the age gap. But getting back to that question, what are the top 3 places you lived in, right? If you've only lived in a couple places, you really don't know. But I'd say neighbors count. Neighbors count. Bad neighbors can fuck up your life, man. Let's put it this way. Ottawa, by far, the best women-men ratio of any city ever lived. The best relationship I had were in Ottawa, both platonic, etc., but it's small and cold. So there you go. It's a trade-off, right? So it's what you measure. Like weather counts, friends count. That's a bit. You know what's interesting about that? I wouldn't know that about. Ottawa. It's just I wouldn't know fuck all about Ottawa. You telling me there's a great woman to men ratio there, and it's better than Southern California for relationships? All right, right. But I've noticed what are the top 3 places you lived. I would say for me, San Diego. But here's the funny thing about San Diego. I lived in 3 different, I was there for 3.5, 4 years, give or take. I don't remember the exact time. 3.5, 4 years, early 20s. Great time. And I lived in 3 different places. So this is interesting. I got my first apartment. I was 19 or 20 years old, I think. I lived in Pacific Beach, PB, and palm trees in the middle of the road. I don't know, 10 blocks down from the beach. Okay, I'm in. Shitty little studio apartment with carpet. Nothing special, but the area was great. I could walk to places. It was close to work. Weather was outstanding. We had a shitty pool. It was almost like a ghetto Melrose Place. And that's a great description of it. It had a pool in the middle. It was enclosed, and there was like 18 units. And I had a little studio in the corner for $750. I paid $750, and that was 20 years ago. Amazing. Because of the area. And it was cool. My neighbors were pretty cool, actually, because we were always like in the same age range. I was 20, but everyone else was like mid to late 20s. No one had kids. So I'd say the neighbors were pretty good. But here's an interesting thing. The neighbors are pretty good. Especially, there was one lady, actually, she was from Canada. Really nice. Canadians and New Zealanders, if you ever lived internationally, they're the nicest people. They just are. And so we got along really good. I was there for like 6 months. A friend of mine had a falling out, and he needed to move in, so we had to share the studio for a little bit. So that was kind of a messy thing. But then there was another guy that, this is not a joke either. There's another guy that lived there who was from Ireland. Thick Irish accent. And he was really cool, but he was on drugs. He was on Oxycontin. He had moved down to San Diego to be closer to get drugs from Tijuana. No joke. So he'd hang out, and he'd always come down. And he was funny. He was a character. But he had some issues in his life, we'll just say, and you want to borrow money sometimes. Then there was another guy that was from Boston, and there was a couple there. So every weekend you were kind of hanging out with your neighbors, and it was cool, but I wouldn't want to do that long term. So that was kind of cool. But then I moved into a massive apartment complex. This is really interesting. This apartment complex was one of those ones that had like, I don't know, like 300 units. It had a pool. It had a fitness center. It had basketball courts. I was like, this is going to be great, right? This is going to be such an upgrade from my own place. It was like $300 more a month. And I thought it'd be, such an upgrade. And I never talked to my neighbors there. The hallways reeked of like stale carpet, if you know that smell from like a Motel 6, because it was enclosed. The units were packed in a way that I only had one sliding glass door out and one window out. So the side of your apartment had no windows. So I just remember thinking like, why does this place feel, it's just not homey. It's just not cozy. And you never talk to your neighbors because everyone was packed in like sardines in this thing. And afterwards, I always realized you always want windows in your house, a lot of windows. I lived there for a year. That's probably one of the worst places I lived at as far as the feeling. It's like you were in jail once you got home. No windows on the side, closed hallway. You got your mail from one of those things that has 100 different mailboxes. And there was, like I said, it's like 300 units. And I lived there. I had a roommate for a little bit, and then I lived there alone, but I didn't like it. And then I moved into a place in Mission Beach, which is a stone's throw to a beach. Literally, you could, the beach was 20 yards away. Crappy house, 3-bedroom, 1 bath. We had to leave the door open when you took showers so mildew didn't grow. I'm not joking. And it was one of the greatest places I ever lived. My 2 roommates were really good. We got along really well. The whole block, it was like the whole block, and it was all these little apartments. Everyone was in college or in their late 20s on down, having fun, no families, no kids. Everyone was in the same boat. So you come home on like a Friday night after work, and it would just be like, you didn't have to go anywhere. The neighbors were good. The beach was close. I think that year I put down, I don't know, like 4,000 miles on my car. I didn't drive anywhere once I got home. The proximity to fun, that I could walk down to a local bar, get a slice of pizza. Everything was close. The beach was right nearby. The weather was outstanding. The camaraderie on the block. The camaraderie with my roommates. That's what gets underrated wherever you live. See, what happens is when you move, yes, it was the Bay Point Apartments. Wow, that's small world, vegan goddess. You got it. You nailed it, hun. Ingram. The interesting thing was probably the crappiest place. I mean, my room was literally like a walk-in closet. But the camaraderie and the location was the best. And that was probably one of the best places I ever lived. For sure. Environment, house, everything. And what happens when you move for a job? Like you go, I'm going to move to this city because the work's good. And I had a client like this. She had to move to some area of Texas that wasn't near a major city. Texas is a big state. I don't know it very well, but she was from Memphis or one of these other places. And it was like, the job's good, the pay's good. She didn't know anyone. She had a single apartment. That's tough, man. And she was single, late 20s. The demographics didn't line up for her. The demographic, like, you know what I mean? There wasn't a lot of people in her age range. It was a warehouse where she worked. Those kinds of moves for the money, it's gonna take you some time to assimilate wherever you move to, but it's gonna be tough. And if you do something like that just for the money, because she was saying she got a bonus and some other things, it's like, get your bonus and move again. Don't stick it out. Environments count. Where you live counts. Right? Who you live with counts. But if you look back at the top 3 places you lived in, it's probably the neighbors or the people you lived with made it a better place to live. Really interesting part of that. So when you live alone, it should be in close proximity to having some fun. And also, it has to line up with your values, right? I value living close to the beach. I love the beach. There's actually people out there that don't like the beach. I see people walking on the beach with shoes, and it just makes me cringe. It's like, you don't walk on the beach with shoes, dude. Right there. Clutch just said 7 pounds down is part of where I live. I'm not saying that you need to move to lose weight, but environment counts. Wow, Vegan Goddess. I lived there probably... I lived in the Bay Point Apartments. That's a small world. Probably 18 years ago. So, yeah, we weren't far off. 17 years ago, I was probably in Mission Beach, Santa Barbara Drive. I get a lot of people on the live stream from San Diego. It's kind of funny. I'm just curious. I'm in the Northeast and always wanted to visit Toronto. Now I have a tour guide. Oh, good question. Can you describe the best place you ever lived while in a long-term relationship? FP asks. I would say, actually, this might be surprising. So when I moved back from, remember slow-mo? Yeah, that's good knowledge. Wow, this is a small world. Yeah, slow-mo was the rollerblader on the beach boardwalk. There's a guy that rollerbladed in slow motion. But getting back to that question, can you describe the best place you ever lived while in a long-term relationship? I'd have 2. One was probably, I went back to my hometown after living in San Diego. I was in my mid-20s. Excuse me, I was like 24. I went back to finish up school at San Francisco State because I wasn't going to finish in San Diego. I was transferred to San Francisco State. I'm like, all right, that's when I actually gave up an environment I really liked living in. And I was living in San Francisco in a nice place, actually, but very empty. The neighbors weren't very good, and the weather was very cold. And I had to move back into my family house. My sister was getting a divorce. She had her 2 kids. The kids were 10 and 5, around that range. And I moved back to my hometown, which was outside of San Francisco. And my girlfriend moved in, and my mom was there. My dad was kind of there part-time. That's another story. But the house was full, and the house was small. Right? The house was really small. And the house wasn't very nice. Neighbors were always solid. Where the neighborhood I grew up in, our neighbors were just nice people. They weren't like-minded or friends. They were just like no drama. But that was, me and my girlfriend lived there for 3.5 years. And actually, when my sister and the kids moved out and got on their feet and got their own house, it actually was very empty. So the camaraderie of having my niece and my nephew and my sister and my mom there actually was really nice. And you would think, I was in my mid-20s. We all helped each other out. We were a family. I hadn't been home for, 3 or 4 years being in San Diego, so it was nice for me. And my girlfriend really, really was a part of my family at the time. So that was one of those times. And it wasn't soon after that my family moved out and I was still in that house that our relationship went south, probably for other reasons, but it didn't help. And then I would say I I had a good long-term relationship in Thailand. That's very good. Very good. Great group of friends, like-minded. Coach, sometimes your streams trigger some shit. Sometimes, like tonight, it's damn good memories. You're a real one. You can, a lot of times depression's based on bringing up past moments that you don't like. A lot of times you can bring up good stuff too. Ottawa winters suck. Montreal is pretty comparable, but Toronto really comes close. When it's 30 in Toronto, it's 40. Jeez, I couldn't even imagine that. But yeah, when you go into what are your top 3 places you lived in your life, it's kind of interesting. Because it's not the place with the most beautiful granite countertops. And I always bring up granite countertops because people get into the remodeled kitchen or a remodeled bathroom or 3-car garage. Places I lived in that I had the best experiences had the best neighbors and camaraderie within the house. Like if I'm going to say, because I lived alone a few times too and I had my own apartments, I would say Chiang Mai had a really cool studio apartment. Are there different expectations with relationships in Thailand as opposed to ones you've experienced in the USA? Well, not being in the States for 11 years probably takes me out of that conversation a bit because I just have what people go on back. When I talk to you in a live coaching session, I'm dialed into your situation as an individual, right? So I'm going to ask you questions about you as an individual. But there's these generalizations about dating in America and whatnot. There's certain... I would say the one thing that repels me is women that are overly materialistic. And I wouldn't say that that's something that is just of women. But we have materialistic women in Thailand. We have them in America. It seems like there'd probably be more in America. That doesn't answer your questions. I'm sorry. Are there different expectations with relationships in Thailand as opposed to you've experienced in the USA? I would just say one of the biggest differences would be that a lot of times, not always, because Thailand's 70 million plus. It's not a small country. And I wouldn't say it's third world. There's a lot of wealthy people in Thailand. So the generalizations are that it's poor. It's not. It's not. But you probably are going to be more likely to be thought of as to help out their family. So I think this is Asian culture overall, not just Thailand. So where in America, someone might have a retirement or you think your parents take care of your parents. It's a lifetime thing for someone to take care of their parents. So there's probably a strong possibility if their parents aren't doing well or just getting by that you're going to have to help out with that. And they're never going to turn their back on their parents, no matter if they're bad or good. So that's a different tie, I think, where people in America cut that off. Yeah, help the family. But it's not, when I say help the family, it wouldn't be like thousands of dollars. It could be like $300 a month. It could be, and that could sustain the family. And by the way, this isn't my specific situation. I'm just saying that this is a common theme. Or $500. There's a friend of mine he's American. He's lived here for 15 years, and he gives his wife's family $500 a month. And someone would be like, "Oh, that's nuts." The family's, doesn't really have any money coming in. They don't have retirement or anything like that. I don't think it was one of those things where it's like gun to the head, but that's an expectation his girlfriend or wife has in helping out her family, and the wages and the salaries just are not high. So that would be one of them. Other expectations? I think if you're a foreigner here, it's thought that you automatically have more money. So I think a lot of times they think you're more likely to be generous or should be generous if you have money, because a lot of things that are social here, like eating out or eating together, I don't think it's expected that you pay for everyone all the time. But if you have money, then you should be sharing it with your family or your close ones. Where there's people that have money and they're like, nah, fuck it. You know, I don't need to share with family members or help them out. So those are a couple of things. But when you look at it on a larger scale in a lot of places in America, you might not have to give someone's parents money, but you might have to be on a certain economic status level to be in the arena with certain women, right? The best place has been Ottawa. Nothing beats staying in on a Saturday, cuddling with someone who really loves you to keep warm. Not even the beach can compare to my experience. That's interesting. So if one's not okay with helping out the family, it's a deal breaker. I would say for certain women. So like, let me just clarify this, because I'm sensitive to living here a long time. There's a lot of people that generalize based on their own relationships. So they're like, oh, this is how it is for everyone. That's not true. I've been in 2 serious relationships here, and I've never had to give the family money. I'm saying that that being more common is something that would be a deal breaker for some women. It would be. But it doesn't apply to all. And it would be something that it could either be like the friend of mine does it. It's like, it's his pleasure. He's got the money. He can give $500 a month, and they need it. They're not just using it for, buying new cars and stuff. And so it works for him. I'm 25 right now and about to move in with my sis and nephew to help them out with rent. That's exactly my age. Been living alone with boyfriends for years. I was worried about the adjustment, but your story about moving in with your family gave me reassurance about the camaraderie. When else in my life I would have the chance to have a close relationship and my sis and nephew again? Wow, hun, that just gave me chills. It gave me chills because I remember, I was 24, 25 when I did it, and it was a golden time in my life because my nephew was 5, my niece was 10. I was able to pick him up from school, spend a lot of time with him, spent a lot of time with my niece. I took him to ball games. I really embraced it. And we helped each other out, and it was a privilege. And going into it, I didn't know how it was going to be. I really missed them when they moved out. So absolutely embrace it at 25, and it's temporary, right? But you'll miss them when you do it for a while. It's much better than living alone, because at our core as human beings, we're social creatures. That can't be understated. And we also when you live alone, you lose that helping each other out. When you live in a home or even you have roommates and you do something for each other, it's big for the human spirit. And so I think it's a great move for you at 25 years old. Save some money, reconnect with your sister and your nephew. It's huge, and it's. I'm gonna go back home. I'll probably be back home for 6 months to a year, doing this clinical hypnotherapy certification. I'm gonna be living with my parents. I might go to my nieces a few times, but I'm not scared of it at all because I have a pretty good relationship with them. But also, it's like it's not forever, and it'll be a good time to really spend some time, be around. So I would say that it might be an adjustment for you, FP, but overall, it'll be a great time to connect with your nephew. And post breakup, you've got, if not everyone has a great relationship with their family. So I have a good one with my parents now, but I've had issues with my dad off and on since I was born. So I haven't always been okay with that. And there's a big reason I've lived 11 years abroad. It's not because I have the best family life. There's been some bad shit. But I would say, life is short. Well, the people that we're close to, their lives are short too sometimes. And so I'm looking forward to this as far as, when are you going to get another time, right? $200 to get her to leave you alone. Yeah, Rob, it's one of those things, if you have money like you do or seem to do, I would definitely look at retiring here or spending 6 months out of the year if you work online, Rob. It's a beautiful place. And it's really improving. But it's gorgeous here, man. There's a bunch of people moving here that work online. Bunch of people that have money. There's Porsches and Mercedes all over the island right now. I told my husband if we become very rich, I don't mind if we give his ex $200,000 or more if she'll leave us alone. Money is on the top of the list of my values. Well, where do you live at in the world? Here's an interesting thing. That was on my list about talking about environments, right? So think about this for a moment. I'm from the Silicon Valley. It wasn't the Silicon Valley when I was born, but the area I lived in was right between San Francisco and San Jose, San Mateo. And there's a lot of people that move there to get rich because of the startups and the Google and all these little companies. There's a bunch of rich people. They're all from other places, but they moved there with the intention that this was a place to make money. People moved to Wall Street. People moved to LA to become actors. You couldn't be an actor probably and live in Nebraska, right? There's certain parts of the world where you're not going to make a lot of money. It's changing with online businesses, but even then, you still need to mingle and get around that. And I think if Clutch is still on, I think living in Southern California where you're at, you're going to just make more money. There's just more money available there. The cost of living's more. Adrian Lewis, how do you start trusting people again after being betrayed, used, and cheated on? First of all, how many people have done it to you? If it's one person, then deal with that trust, betrayal, and being used and cheated on as an individual thing. That's number one, because not all people are bad. So if you're generalizing that like, oh, when people do that to me, how many people have done that to you? Now, there's been multiple people that have betrayed you or used you or cheated on you, then you got to take some accountability and responsibility for being a bad judgment of character. I'm talking about if it's been a lot of people that have done that to you. You've got to ask yourself, what positions am I putting myself in? Why am I not seeing these red flags? Right? What am I overlooking? Now, if it's happened to you once, you're going to get a lot of wisdom from that experience. And you got to cut that individual off so they can't do it to you again. Fool me once, fool me twice. 1 strike, 2 strike, 3 strikes, you're out. Right? Is there anyone you trust, Adrian Lewis? That's a good question too. It's like at your worst moment, are there five people that you can go, I trust this person? See how like a phrase can create, and I'm not singling you out, Adrian Lewis, I'm just going to explain something here. A phrase like, oh, she's the worst cook in the world, dramatized. You just made it 10 times worse. Now, you could say that funny or you could say it seriously. Oh, how can I start trusting people? How can you trust a girlfriend again? How can you trust Karen again? How can you put a name to the person that you're actually talking about? Not all people. That's going to fuck up your subconscious. Don't put it as all women are like this. An individual betrayed you. Used is one of those things that, that's an interesting thing to say. Cheated on, right? Okay. Once you find those things out, unfortunately, people don't go to jail for that usually. You got to cut them off, move on, learn from it. But don't assume that, all people are that way. Loyalty. It's an interesting topic. Doing what I do and talking to so many people. Cheating or loyalty? If they ever do studies on this kind of stuff, the funny thing is about a study, right? A study on cheating, who's going to tell the truth? Oh, there's been a study on cheating, and there's been 30% of couples cheat. Oh, so the people that cheat are going to tell the truth in the study? It would be alarming how many people have cheated or do cheat in their monogamous relationships. Even in that book, Mating in Captivity, the lady that's a therapist in New York, Esther Pearl, talks about herself cheating and her husband accepting it, I believe. It just makes you wonder. Did human beings evolve to be in a monogamous relationship till death do us part? Loyalty is a hard thing to come by these days. Sperm wars will give most people PTSD. You got to think also, like I said, there's never been more opportunity to cheat. The avenues to do so, the temptation. Think about music now. Think about movies now. I'm definitely learning. I grew up Christian and believing in monogamous relationship. I'm not convinced humans are designed to be so. It's a question to ask. It's a fair question. Some people get really upset about that. And I'll go back to the environment thing. Depending on the area you live in, what if you live in a township of 100 people? Is your partner more likely to be loyal? Probably, because they have less options. They have less options. If you're living in, Miami, Florida, and your girlfriend likes to go out and party a lot, and you like to go out and party a lot, and you guys have drinks together, and you go to nightclubs, and you go to big concerts and events, you're just upping the opportunity to, first of all, there's going to be temptation. That's never even mentioned. By going to these events and mingling with people, looking their best, doing their best, looking sexy, you're just creating more and more temptation. And at some point, a lot of times people break. Super blessed. Right on, Adrian Lewis. Where are you at in the world, Adrian? Now, getting back, we still got 9 on deck. I don't know if the same people are still here, but we were talking about environments. I had these questions. I'm gonna lay this out in a neater video in the future. Probably not a live stream. I'm not anti-monogamy. I'm just saying it's more common than it's more common than people realize. People are outraged by it. cheating's been going on since the beginning of time, and it's much more prevalent behind the scenes than people think. Because there's the people that get caught, there's the people that don't get caught. What do you think the percentage of people that get caught compared to the people that don't get caught? Or do you think that everyone does eventually get caught? Well, the mindset of a cheater wouldn't be individualized to one thing. There wouldn't be like, oh, the cheater is avoidant such and such attachment. People cheat for thousands of different reasons, probably. What's your opinion on red pill ideology? I wouldn't go deep into it because I don't study it. I like Rollo Tomassi, the book The Rational Male. I don't live by that book. I don't know if that applies to being, red pill. But I would say that a lot of the information you're getting for individual people that are in that lane, they've come to those conclusions because they've been burned. So, I don't know these people the way other people follow them. So, full disclosure, I don't have all the information in front of me. But for example, someone like Rich Cooper, who I like, I think he's I think he's got a good show. He's got a good way about him and stuff like that. I don't watch his show often, but I've seen him. But it's evident that he had a bad divorce, I believe in his late 30s, and then he had a relationship afterwards, if I'm correct. I've heard him talk about this before, where it was a woman his age with a kid, and it was bad. And the relationship didn't go good. So now it's, all women are like this, or all women that have kids are like this. Make sure you do this and this. And there's some good things too. He's very direct, for example, he'll ask someone, how much do you weigh? It's like, what, like someone's going on about their problems. He's like, how much do you weigh and how tall are you? He's sizing you up to tell you, this is an area that you have control over, is your fitness and your look. And if you're complaining about another woman and you're fat, then you're not as, you don't have as many options. He gets right to the point. But how old are you, Adrian? That's another thing. You're getting advice. Look at Rollo Tomassi, for example. I'm not sure how old Rollo Tomassi is, but I think he's in his probably mid 40s to late 40s, maybe early 50s. He's got kids. He's married. In his book, he says for you to spin plates till you're 30, which means have multiple women or be dating multiple women. And there's a lot of truth to that because it gives you the most options, the ability to maneuver, he says. I don't discount that. But he grew up in L.A. in a band. Or he lived in L.A. and he was in a band of some sort. So I don't know, does that apply to you if you live in Idaho? Does that apply to you in Dallas? I don't know. Like what you're doing, what you don't realize is there's an ideology or philosophy that's being created that somehow you think is right for all men. Right? Because it was right for these guys, or these guys got burned and then they projected on to what happened to them. The reality is Adrian Lewis is an individual that's 27 years old. If I was to talk to you in a live coaching session and really get into who you are and how you tick, maybe some of the red pill stuff doesn't apply to you because you're not that kind of person. That philosophy doesn't line up. The problem is there's some people taking on philosophies that don't line up with them, and it's not a good fit. Or you get one of these extreme people and they're projecting their past relationship and what went down with them onto yours, and your relationship is its own ingredients. Your breakup, your feelings is not someone else's philosophy because of what went down in their relationship. For example, let's say you take advice from a guy that, we're talking about cheating, got cheated on. He's 41, and when he was 33, he had his heart ripped out of his chest by his ex, and he walked in on her cheating on him. Right? And now he tells you, you better keep an eye on your girlfriend. Don't take shit off them. They all cheat. Check her phone. Do this, because his life experience, his situation, to him, he feels like this happens to everyone. And people do this. People do this subconsciously all the time. I didn't fully understand projection until I started doing coaching. People are doing it all the time. I do it. I reflect on my past breakup. I'm more objective. I'm more mindful and aware of it. I definitely don't do it when I talk to people in coaching sessions. I definitely ask people more questions to explore what they really want. You're an individual, Adrian. You're someone that has choices. The unfortunate opportunity is that these philosophies online, these theories online, they could work for you. They're not facts. They're not facts. They're theories. They're philosophies. If you choose to use one of them, they're not foolproof. They're not guarantees. Right? So take what you want from them. If some of them give you a weird feeling, take what you want from them. But if you're in a really bad breakup, you should talk to me or talk to another coach and get to the bottom of your breakup as an individual. Don't generalize it as, oh, all women do this, or all this is what happens in breakups. That's just a way to sell books. I can scale that, right? That's one of the things. People come to me all the time. They're like, oh, how can we scale your business? How can we scale your business? Right? And they're right. Like, how can we scale it? Dude, when you write a book and I give you breakup philosophy, right? I'm like, this is how breakups are. I still would never even be able to touch the intricacies of individual breakups. I was just talking to this guy today that just came back to me. It was like 5 months ago, and he had a breakup, and he's got this off and on thing, and he's been on videos. He's talked to different things. He's a smart guy, intelligent guy. But he needs to tell me the little details, because those all count. It's a domino effect, man. Rye Flint. Hey, Matt, great to catch you on live. How you doing, Rye? What a name. Truth of love. You're asking people that get caught or people that cheat overall? That's a good question. That's a good question. Let me ask you this, Clutch. You're asking people that get, so I'm saying that I don't know if there's one mindset for a cheater. There's obviously serial cheaters. There's people that cheat and feel guilty about it. There's people that cheat and never do it again. This idea that once a cheater, always a cheater, that's not true. People have asked me that continuously. They've asked me that before. So I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all for any cheater. What's the story? What went down? Why did it go down? What were the moves in place? There's been times where people have built a pretty good case of why they're cheating, and I thought, wow, that's interesting. That's one I haven't heard before. The story that goes along with the cheating counts, right? Don't you think circumstances count, or do you think it's just non-negotiable? Because I've heard some pretty interesting circumstances where I thought, okay, interesting. What about people that can't stop emotional cheating? Let let me get back to that. She was definitely individual. It still hurts, and it got a lot of healing work and trauma I need to work through. But thanks for taking the time to do the live session. Did we do a live session before, Adrian? Maybe you have a different name. Is it like patriarchy? I'm sorry, I don't know what that question's in regards to, vegan. Where do you get these percentages, Clutch? What is this percentage? Like, how can you say 5% of people do it one? Is that a real percentage that you have, or is that something that you're just throwing out there? Where does that come from? What about people that can't stop emotional cheating? Emotional cheating is one of those interesting things to me. I'll be honest, when I first heard about it, I kind of laughed because I thought to myself, what does that mean? That you can't have feelings or be attracted to someone else you work with and talk to them in a certain way? I didn't understand it fully. So I think that when you get to emotional cheating, like, what's your definition of it? First of all, like, what's your lines? Because I think that that's one of those things that, I think in the 80s, probably there wasn't even a term emotional cheating, right? This is kind of new. But emotional cheating to me is like over flirting, right? Or texting someone else but not doing anything physical with them, or flirting. When flirting starts getting more in depth and serious. Okay. Well, that's one of those things that, this is how I look at it. Certain couples, I'm a flirt. I don't know what I don't think I crossed the line. I wouldn't go, I would say crossing the line would be like, texting before bed and saying you're going to meet up. And there's playfulness, and then there's like another part of it where you start to take it too far. Now, here's the thing. Here's my take on it, FP. So now that you've clarified that it's flirting that starts getting more in depth and serious. Okay, and I would say that that's probably at the workplace, number one. Number two, maybe with your friends. Like, so how are you going to monitor that? Number two would be when you're building a relationship where you get to know your partner, you're going to know, are they flirtatious? Are they outgoing? I'm extremely outgoing. So I'll talk to people at a restaurant, or in my town right now, at the school I used to work at. I talk to everyone, and I engage the conversation. Oh, how you doing today? Oh, I like that dress. Oh, you look good today, hon. Da-da-da. So my point is, you need to establish the line with your partner of what you're comfortable with and what you're not. And I'm not going to say what's wrong or right, because that's your feelings on your own. But I can't be with someone that that's a big issue for, in the sense that they get jealous if you talk to someone else, or they think that you're cheating because you're being sweet or kind or charming. But I would say, if you do catch someone texting someone else, or meeting them online, you need to create the expectations or the line being drawn at what you're comfortable with, because it's not the same for everyone, right? And if you're with someone that's outgoing and flirtatious in nature, you're gonna have to decide if you accept that or not accept that, because you're probably not gonna bleed that out of them, right? See, there you go. I see it in my work within people that are single in relationships, but my coworkers are all within their late 20s and 30s, so it might have to do with the age. Yeah. So workplace counts. There's definitely places where people tend to cheat more. And this is the thing about work. Let's say you work 40 to 50 hours. Sometimes you see your coworkers more than you see your partner. And then when you see your partner, you're so burnt out on work, you don't have time to have feelings. The medical field's a hotbed for cheating. Nurses and doctors, that's a big one. Big one. Big one. Yeah, like I said, if that's something that you have a problem with, I think that you have to take that up as an individual in your relationship. That's not something for everyone to follow the same lead, because some people are quite comfortable with their partner being flirtatious or outgoing. I've had one girlfriend that's very flirtatious and outgoing, and everywhere we'd go, it's like, oh, that's my friend. Another guy? You know what I mean? It was like when I was in my early 20s, but she was a personality that was very outgoing and very sweet, and that was how she was. And if I wanted to be with her, that was just going to be part of the thing. And over time, I didn't like it. I didn't trust her, whether that was legitimate or not. And so, if you're in one of those relationships, I think you kind of know. You should know the line with your partner as an individual. You shouldn't just have, you can never text or talk to other women. It's like someone was on the live stream a while back, I think when Clutch was on, and she was saying that she doesn't allow, if you're with her, you're not allowed to talk to women. It's like, okay. Right? Like, there's no possibility of you being friends with someone else. It's like, okay. So you got to draw your own lines on that and realize that certain people are going to be more flirtatious or charming or outgoing by nature. And if you can't deal with that, you're probably not going to change them. And emotional cheating is defined by the individual, just like love. It's like love, right? Oh, I love you. What's that mean to you? It means different things to different people. So you need to find what emotional cheating is to you and nail it down. And then when you're with someone, make it an important thing. I would say, in my own personal thing, is like when you really trust someone, you love them, and you're all in, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt, in my book, to make the relationship work. You can't be going out there Sherlock Holmes in it and looking for everything that you can find, because until you don't find, until they do something, if you're in love with them, you need to show them trust. Now, if something comes up or something's fishy or you got a bad gut feeling, okay. It's an average based on experience and what the psychological breakdowns of people generally is. People who cheat continuously tend to be pathological. So psychopaths, cluster B. So 5% of the world population would be serial cheaters based on. And how would you characterize if they're a serial cheater or not? If they're 10 cheating a month or 1 cheating a month? I'm not a serial cheater. I would never not eat my Lucky Charms. They're magically delicious. Okay. As far as the 30 to 40, 1 in 3 people cheat at some point. At least those are the... Where are the estimates from, though, Clutch? But environment, circumstances play a big role. I mean, where's that estimate from? Is that from a study that you read somewhere? My husband never flirts because he is not allowed to. He can talk as much as he wants with women. I'm his favorite woman, though. Well, good for you, vegan goddess. I'm a little curious, though, vegan goddess. You asked the question to everyone about if you were single, would it be okay that you're a vegan or something? So why would you ask that question? Right on, Adrian. That's a big one. You both work at home. Yeah, a lot of people get sick of each other. My ex had a friend from work that ended up cheating on her husband with him while they were hanging out. See, all right. My ex had a friend from work that ended up cheating on her husband with him while they were hanging out in the car on a lunch break. The flirting had progressed that far. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. All the time. I wouldn't even put a percentage on it. I would just say it's over 50 to 60%. I just did put a percentage. Over 50%. Roller girl. 9 on deck, 4 likes. Dominatrix. Wouldn't that, vegan goddess, wouldn't that be emotional cheating that you're asking people if you were single, what would they think? Well, we were talking about a variety of things today, Roller Girl. It's been all over the place like most of these usually are. We were talking about environments and why you would live in different environments. Then it got into cheating somehow and emotional cheating. Well, it's living in different environments post-breakup, but we got a little deeper. You know, what are your 3 favorite places to live over your lifetime? I can send you some articles that quote studies. It isn't one on I get this information from. Thanks, Chuckster. How do you define emotional cheating? Let me ask you this, Clutch. Would you say that these studies, and I'm not saying it's bullshit. I'm just asking questions. Would you say that these studies are based on Americans, and like how many? This is what gets me about studies, and I know you're a numbers person, Clutch. I know that this is your wheelhouse, right? Stats and things like this, and I'm not discounting studies, but I like to ask a little further questions because this is thrown around a lot. And I'm just wondering, like, in these studies where they're saying like 24, who's being questioned and how many people? Because this is what gets me. I mean, where's the study being done and how many people are being asked? And do you think that people that cheat would be honest in a study? It's like if they had a study on, I think I've heard of, well, I just don't want you to think that I'm trying to fuck with you. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to like, oh, you know, I know that you're a numbers person. I'm not a numbers person. So I'm not, but I'm okay with it. But it's like, this gets done all the time where, what was it? Where did I hear it recently? Someone said, you know, it's like, 60% of marriages say that they have more sex than people that don't. It's like, where do you get those numbers from? Where do you do those studies? No, I'm saying specifically you went from 30 to 40%, and then now it's 20 to 40% that cheat. But I'm saying, are these studies being done in America? And like, how many people have been studied? You know, when people drop the study thing, like studies show, right? It was like that. They have these different ones where they'll be like, oh, the study shows, but like the study's not shown. Emotional cheating, I think, revolves around the concept of having an emotional attachment to someone else besides the husband. And emotional cheating can be, as far as I've heard, is that, you know, like, let's say the biggest one is you work with someone and you flirt with them, or you go to lunch with them. You talk about things with them. You do everything but have sex. FP threw it in there. So the answer is geographical based. I would just add that, all right, here's my thing about a study. How many people are getting studied? 1,000? 10,000? So even if it comes up 30 or 40%, how is that relative to everyone? How accurate is the study if it's based on questions, not actual results, like a laboratory or something? Right? It's like if someone was to do a study on coaching, on breakup coaches on YouTube, right? And I threw my hat in the ring, and Corey Wayne was in there, and Clutch, you're in there, and we got reviews back, and someone said that, you know, 50% of the coaches are full of shit. It's like, well, I mean, what is this? I mean, it's, I don't know. The cheating thing, someone could go, well, I didn't really cheat, but they kissed someone or something like that. I don't know how there could be a number on that for the world. I don't know how there could be a number on that for a study of 10,000 people. The number of people being pooled in a study doesn't make a huge difference. This is what I'd rather talk about. So for example, staying to the cheating thing. If you say that 30-40% of people cheat based on studies, it wouldn't matter if the study was 1,000 people or 10,000 people. Intentions are everything, no matter how far or not far you've gone with cheating. Intentions are everything to you. But how do you know another person's intentions? FP, why don't you just tell me what happened? That's what I mean. The intentions are sometimes. After a certain point, no, you should have a sufficient data. It depends on a number of things, the people you're surveying, how you're collecting the data, how the data is being analyzed. Okay. All right, we will talk about this then. Let's do it. I think it's best if we, it's a good topic, Clutch. About, should the topic be, rather than just cheating, but studies about relationships? Because I have trouble whenever someone says there's a study about relationships. Every survey has a bias. Okay. What do you mean? If there are so many situations of this that I've seen, most recently was sort of involved in myself as the other woman unintentionally. I don't know what you mean by that, FP. What's up, Nav? I was going to say, FP, I was going to say, just tell me what happened in your breakup. Like, what happened? Did someone emotionally cheat on you at work, or? Excuse me. I suppose the question could be, Rob, is there some things that can't be measured so simply? There you go. You just said it. It depends on what you're trying to calculate. Certain things like risk can be calculated regularly accurately using historical. Other things like trends, tad harder. Yeah. I would say we both emotionally cheated, but the breakup has so many more variables to it, long enough for a coaching session. Go for it. Isn't that interesting? Because I just assumed that you were accusing him of emotionally cheating, but you're saying you actually did it. That's actually really interesting, because there's a lot of people that I've had clients before that they say they never cheated, and their partner always accused them of cheating. They always accused me of cheating, and then they found out that they cheated on them many times. And I said, a lot of times people will accuse you of what they think other people do because that's what they do. So if someone cheats a lot, they assume that all people do it. And they actually will assume that you do it, or they'll be looking for things because that's something that they would do. There's also something called the weighted mean when you are dissecting a wider population set, which in many cases results in more accurate final average. Yeah, I can admit to my own doing shrug. Can't help for something without being self-aware. So when students state 20 to 40% of married couples cheat, I say 30%. So I'm sorry. So when studies say, okay, I got you. Relatively speaking, from the coaching I did, I think it's relatively accurate number. 1 in 3 people that came to me was cheated on. With that said, people that cheat are most likely to reach out to me, so there's a bias. You know what? You want to hear something interesting about this? Is that the amount of people that were the ones to cheat, right? Were the ones to cheat. They usually withhold that information till the end or until they get really comfortable. I've had people like, all right, I'm going to tell you the truth. I actually, I was talking to my ex, but we actually did hook up. I'm going to tell you the truth. Or they're really upset about something with their partner. I'm like, well, so have you done that before? And then they'll be like, yeah, I have. But it's different, or this or that. Yeah, it's like, and by the way, I think you might be the same way, Clutch, but I don't have any kind of, if you come to me, this is a situation where it's like, I'm here to help you unpack this. You know, I'm here to unpack this with you. I'm not here to say like, oh wow, you cheated, oh you're crazy. You know, it's like, no, you want to learn some things about what happened and what went by. So, man, I remember one story. The guy called me back the next day. He booked another session. He's like, I got to tell you the truth. I'm like, okay. He's like, actually, and I felt it when we were talking too. I was like, this guy's, it was weird. And then, it was weird the way he was going with the story and this and that. And the next day he's like, and he felt better afterwards because he never got caught. But I'll tell you what gets you more than just as bad as getting caught is guilt. Guilt's big. I don't know, depending on because to me, cheating would be, I guess kissing, various intimate acts, let's say. But like emotional cheating, it seems like that would be something with a wider range of definition. So in other words, if someone said, well, he kissed someone else, that's cheating for me. I could understand that. Someone else could say, well, that doesn't count because it's not penetration, right? But emotional cheating would seem so much wider. It's like you can't have thoughts about other people. Like let's tell the truth. Chuckster, Rob, Clutch. Let's say in your lifetime you've worked somewhere and you've worked with an attractive woman and you've been in a monogamous relationship with a girlfriend. You've never thought about that woman that you worked with in a way that you were like, oh, she's hot. I'd like to XYZ. Like, would that clarify as emotional cheating? Some people say it does. Like, to have the thought, there was a guy that told me that he was so into his girlfriend that he was like, if I even had a thought, a temptation or a thought about another girl I worked with, I would tell my girlfriend. I was like, I wouldn't do that, dude. I mean, I don't like that kind of stuff. That can't. I don't think that can be filtered out. Yeah, fantasy thoughts or just like you're highly attracted. Like you've never had that happen, Rob, or is it? I mean, I'm a big flirt too. Beater? Who said beater? Oh, okay. Do most cheaters feel guilt? No, actually, I wouldn't say all of them. People, everyone has their own set of morals and values. Everyone thinks that everyone goes by their morals and values. But there's people out there that could validate it and go, what's all men cheat? You probably heard that before, right? Look at these the amount of famous actors, actresses, or kings that it's validated because they're wealthy, right? They're famous. Why wouldn't they do that? Clint Eastwood has 7 kids from like 4 different wives. You'd never know that, right? I don't know the exact. I might have that wrong, so don't quote me on that. But it's up there. He had his last kid at like 62 out of wedlock, right? I mean, do you think Clint feels guilty about that? I don't think so, probably. So it's different people. Depends on their relationship. Some do. For others, cheating is a lifestyle choice. Yep. FP, some people do. I've had a friend that I didn't know, but years later, I'm like, why did you and so break up? And it was because she said he couldn't watch porn. And he got caught multiple times with the Kleenex box, I think. And he didn't tell anyone that for years. And I was just like, really? I mean, and you're laughing about that like, oh, that's no big deal. For some people, it is. For some people, it is. And see, that's my whole point. What you regard as emotional cheating, someone else might be like, oh, no, it's cool. My boyfriend just flirts. That's how he is. Who's wrong? Who's right? You gotta set up your own rules and guidelines to your relationship. You got to set it up. And you got to be with someone that lines up with that. That's how things work. A lot of times when people break up, they disregard the fact that they're in a bad match. That actually it's not going to work because it's not just because they're not good looking enough or they're not this. Their morals and values don't line up. But do you know what I mean, Rob? You never had... Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you the truth, Clutch. This came up before. I swear. This guy was telling me, this guy's a really smart guy, very intelligent, well-read, and he was in his late 30s. And it was funny, for all his intelligence, very, very prosperous, made a lot of money. And he met the woman of his dreams, and he had manifested her. He's in the manifestation. More power to him. And it was it's like the best woman he's ever met in his life, and they're just so great together. I mean, it helps that he was at a point in his life where she probably could stay home and not work. Those kinds of things help, right? And he basically said, yeah, if I have any impure thoughts, and those weren't the exact words, but I would tell her immediately. And I'm like, what? So that's what I mean about emotional cheating. Where does the line get drawn? Right? If I see a cute waitress, I can't look at her or I can't think things in my head. Okay. Gene Simmons is an animal, yeah. How many men could be able to say, and Gene Simmons' wife's completely good with it as far as the TV show went. How many men would be able to say no if given the opportunity that many times wouldn't be? I wouldn't be able to imagine. Oh my God, Tiger Woods cheated. Is that shocking? That a famous rich person? Nick Cannon had 3 children with 3 different women in 9 months. Wow, he's getting it in. Jesus. Wow. That's just no regard. I didn't know that. Nav says it is a big deal because if you're in a relationship, why not have sex with your partner instead of watching porn all the time? She says shady. Okay. To each their own. To me, if that's what you believe, then stamp it. Double stamp it. When you're in a relationship, say, hey, man, I don't accept you watching. I don't like that. All right. There's probably some guy out there that would say, oh, my God, I'll never do it. Great. Yeah, I get what you mean. My husband thinks he's special because he never cheated. I never dated cheaters or shocking that Gene Simmons never caught anything, supposedly. I've met guys like that before that have said that. Why would they? Another thing that could be looked at in studies that's never told the truth. The numbers of 4,800, the chance. The thing about when someone says 1,000 or 4,800, does he have a tally mark book? I mean, how are you going to approximate that? I think Wilt Chamberlain said 1,000. I mean, maybe it's more, maybe it's less, right? My friend told her boyfriend he could not watch porn and ended up finding out he resorted to jerking off in the bathroom at work. Weird on both of their parts. He shouldn't do it at work. I think I saw a Corey Wayne video years ago, and Corey Wayne was like, yeah, I remember when I had my real estate firm, and some guy used to go in the bathroom and drop a batch. I never heard of that term, a batch. You just go and drop a batch in the bathroom. I've known people that say they go do that in the toilet. Yeah. I mean, would it be any harm if she didn't know? I mean, if the guy's jerking off and he's not seeing someone else, that's probably in the girlfriend's favor. Everyone has different threshold of emotional cheating. That is if they're willing to go down the road. Like, I don't think I have trouble attracting women. I could stop pursuing it when I am in a relationship. Does it mean I am not approached? No, I am, but I can turn it down. But imagining getting approached 10 times a day and being offered sex, I don't know how women do it. Yeah, clutch. I mean, if I don't stay at home and watch porn, the terrorists win. Oh goodness. Chuckster. Well, the problem was he was not sleeping with her and preferred to watch porn instead, which made her very angry. Yeah, well. What'd she look like? For me, flirting is cheating. My husband is not allowed, and he knows and respects that. Well, that's one of those things. First of all, you got to clarify what's flirting in your book. Number two, you've established that he's accepted it. Good for you. Great. Good for you. I'm not going to say, oh, yeah, that's horrible. That's this. He's accepted it. He said that's something he can do for you. Great. The thing about when you coach and you hear the intricate, the guy with the dropping balls, what is that? For me, flirting is cheating. My husband is, okay. Flirting is definitely cheating in my books too. Jeez. How many boyfriends have you had, if I may ask, and how old are you? I wouldn't say she is bad looking, but they had been together for 4 years. From what I saw of them two interacting, it seemed like he was checked out. Well, there you go. He was checked out of the relationship. There's a lot of people that actually doing this. There's a lot of people that stay together. Could be finances, could be comfort. It could be, this is underrated, and this goes for men and women. They don't want to hurt the other person, but they want out. But they know the other person needs them or loves them more. So there's a variety of reasons, but guess what gets lost? Affection, intimacy. Yeah. I don't like that way you're staring at the 1 4-pounder with cheese. Huh? So Nav, you've only had one boyfriend, you're 26. Okay, that's pretty good. How was that relationship and what happened? And then I would just say, are you right off the bat, when you meet a guy, assuming that would you assume that most guys cheat and most guys flirt, or would you say that's going to be hard to find a guy that doesn't flirt? He's not allowed to think even. I'm his only goddess. Wow. It's definitely hard to find a guy that doesn't flirt. I was going to say, if you got your flirt radar on, you're going to have to get a guy that is extremely submissive. maybe an engineer type or something like that that's not very talkative, not very outgoing. You're going to have to control the scene. But were you cheated on before, or was your parents in a cheating relationship? Was your dad a flirt? Why are you so anti-flirt? Ladies, we need to be more. It's interesting you brought this up. When I go back to the States, I'm gonna maybe bring my niece on, who's 26, just to get someone in your age range that she just became single again and had a little area of dating and this and that. It's interesting to listen to some of the things that go on. But she's got a friend that's one of those, like, it's like she's not going to, the girl's good looking, but she's not going to find a boyfriend because she's got such an attitude about finding like a guy that does what she says, because she gets so much attention because she's good looking. She's egotistical. She's spoiled, and she feels like she should be served. And I was telling I was like, how long has she been single? My ex and I broke up 8 or 9 months ago because he chose his parents over me. I'm in India, so a long, complicated story. No problem. If you're going to be that controlling, you will just end up with someone that tells you what you want to hear. Or you can have someone that's a little doormat. There's guys out there like that. You give them, you have a little drip feed of intimacy for them. You give them a little intimacy. You give them a carrot at the end of the stick. And there's plenty of those guys out there. The problem is you probably won't be attracted to them. Does he wear a wiener cage? What? You got to have a sense of humor in a relationship. Absolutely. I thought you were joking. I'll tell you what's bad is flirting in front of you. Flirting in front of you in a public scene. All right, we're on 2 hours, 22 minutes. I think this was a good run today. Clutch, we'll definitely link to talk about that collab before you go to Chile. That'll be good, man. We'll unpack that. Talk about studies, talk about cheating maybe. A life without flirting would be very dull and miserable existence. I agree. Just know that you can establish your own lines for that. My husband makes a point to respect it. Well, there you go. You've been crystal clear on what you accept and what you don't accept. No, my parents are in the 60s, still together. Nobody cheated. Okay. I'm anti-flirting when in a relationship only because I wouldn't do it. I don't feel the need to. So you expect them to be like you. Okay. That's okay. My husband's not submissive at all. It's a great live today. Thanks, Wendy Dawn. Corpus Christi, huh, is where you were at. I've heard that's a cool place. You did actually respond to the. I think by December when I'm in the States, I'll have a regular time on every day. But this week I'll definitely be on more often. Things have opened up a bit. I had a 2-week sabbatical there. Well, that's an extreme point, because if I wanted to flirt with everyone I find attractive, no one said that flirting doesn't have to be with everyone you find attractive. That's something that's your way of making your point. Then why am I going to commit a relationship? So is it okay if you flirted with some people or one people? In public, he won't even look at other women. If he does, he gets whoop on the butt. Wow. Everyone's got, this is the thing that I've learned. If he's happy to be in a vegan goddess relationship where he gets whooped in the butt if he takes a look the wrong way, go for him. Go for him. Good for you. It could be a personality trait. If someone's charming or outgoing or kind, or someone can receive that in a flirtatious way, and someone can just be part of their personality. Trying to figure out the extent of the relation based on description of those words. Where you at now, Wendy Dawn? Corpus Christi's like a place where people partied in college and stuff, right? Eclectic group, yeah. That's pretty random that Vegan Goddess lived in the same apartment complex I did. That's a small world. Well, the funny thing about the Vegan Goddess thing is your husband's not here to plead his case. He'd be like, "Oh, I check out women still." No problem. Nav says, "Yeah, I guess it's a personality trait, but I personally avoid doing it." A little south of San Antonio, country living currently. Don't mess with Texas. I worked with a couple people from Texas. This guy, I never forgot that. He's working in Thailand, and we have all kinds of different teachers from different countries. Because we got this guy, he's from Ireland, and he's teaching English over here. And I'm thinking to myself, his accent doesn't sound real good. He's Irish. Spurs fan, I hope, huh? Is he allowed to use the computer? Help me, I haven't eaten steak in 10 days. All right, folks, I got to go to lunch. I'll be on deck tomorrow. It's been a pleasure. It's been good. It's been grand. Some more stories actually on deck. Actually, I got a backup. If you want to book a live coaching session, go for it. If you want to send your story in for it, go for it. Otherwise, take it slow. What? You remember that, Eduardo Martinez? I didn't know that you were still on. The story of the alley, that was a while ago. That wasn't today. Eduardo Martinez. All right, folks. Take it easy.